Welcome in, friendos, to Leading Off right here on Fantasy Pros. I am the Welsh. That is the Arico. That's not easy to say. And we're glad to be with you here on this late August playoff time for some. Some it's not. It's playoff prep. Either way, that is what we're going to be doing a little bit today, talking to you about whether you're in your playoffs for the prep or the upcoming playoff prep. Glad to have you guys here. As always, a busy day here on Monday. We'll be telling you about some of the other stuff, a lot of stuff going over on Fantasy Pros. But Leading Off is brought to you by Bet365. Use promo code Leading Off. You can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets exclusively when you use Bet365. Download the app today. Promo code Leading Off. And don't worry, gambling problem. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF, 1-800-GAMBLER. We got you covered. Mr. Joe Rico, what's up, buddy?
Not much, my friend. Just kicking the week off the best way we know how on Leading Off. So That's it's right. always great when I get to be on a Monday. It just gets the week off on the right foot.
Everybody was ready to go, too. The comment section was blaring. I was like, okay, geez, get everybody going here. But as mentioned, we've got a lot of kind of like playoff push happening. Some people, there's a playoff starting in the Scott White Dynasty League. Some of you are a week or two away. But either way, a lot of what we're going to do is to kind of get you prepped in here. So let's jump right into it. This is actually not going to be necessarily a performance-based thing from this weekend, but this report is something we've kind of been talking about, but I guess we've got a pseudo answer. The Athletic's Ken Rosenthal reports that the Pirates have openly said about restricting. Everybody's kind of talked about Paul Skeens' his last two starts. They've not been good. They've been pretty blah. And they've been talking about, do we need to shut him down here or there? The report is that the only restriction that the Pirates are considering for Paul Skeens is potentially shortening his outings. And in an article, I think this was over on ESPN, in an article, they kind of describe it as the same thing that Garrett Crochet is dealing with, in that you might see four inning outings, very anti-baseball with what they want to do with the upcoming future. But I ask you, Joe, what changes for you as far as anything for fantasy relevance if Paul Skeens is going to have like a much shorter leash moving forward? They did say nothing about like cutting him down, which is great. But if you got shorter outings, are you concerned at all?
I am a little bit. We've seen with Garrett Crochet what that can mean from a fantasy point of view. It kills a lot of the value, especially if you're really trying to catch up in either wins or quality starts right now. You're not going to be able to do that at all. And Garrett Crochet, where we are, he's kind of a drop at this point. Like, I know he had a great start the other night, but it's really tricky to carry him on a lot of shallow rosters. And I think it might get to that point with Skeens. If he's only getting 3 or 4 innings, he's going to have to be perfect in those outings. And as he keeps going along this year, he has not looked quite as sharp as he did out of the gate. So this could come to a situation where you're getting down to your finals and you don't really trust Paul Skeens. If he's getting 2-3 innings going into that last week, might be tricky to use a spot on him on your roster, I think.
I saw your tweet, was that preemptive to the start? Because you did the Garrett Crochet thing. We were like, hey, listen, we got to cut him. And then I saw you tweet that, and I looked at the line. I was like, it's a pretty good line. It's a pretty good line for Crochet. It's just not going super deep. What was that tweet after, or was it pre-line?
No, that was after the game, or maybe the game was still going on, but I was doing my usual searches on Baseball Savant, getting my recaps ready, and he had thrown 55 pitches. He threw 80% strikes. He was absolutely dominant. There was no reason to pull him, and yet still he only went 4 innings. So I see that, and I think, okay, so even when Crochet is going to be perfect against a tough lineup in Houston, they're still not going to let him go. So if that's what we're seeing on his best nights, what's the point? Like, I can still see if you really need the strikeouts and you're hoping that he's good for your ratios, I can kind of get it. But in those like 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues, I don't know if those 3 or 4 inning starts are really going to be worth it. So with Garrett Crochet, I think he's a cut unless you're really confident in those ratios and you really desperately need strikeouts. I just don't think he's going to do a lot for you, especially if you need wins and quality starts. Like, you're screwed there.
I mean, I think everybody needs strikeouts. To your point, the quality start thing is kind of an issue. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe that discussion with Crochet is like a tiny bit more 10-man league than anything else. I'm really not sure I'm looking to cut him in any other spot. And the same thing kind of goes for, this is that application thing. Like, we talk about Paul Skeens. What's the application for you? Probably nothing. Some of you guys still have trade deadlines out there. Probably more of a reason, like, over this next little run to not run him out. But you know what? The chat's got an interesting point, and this is where I was going to go. Barry had said Springs striking out 8/5. That's kind of the similar run you're going to probably see with Skeens. Like, I think Skeens could still go 6. I think 7s are off the board. I think 5 is the sweet spot. But I also think we can maybe tiny bit acknowledge, like, he might be paring down a little bit. I think this is part of it. Like, I think he's getting a little bit worn. League maybe catching up. I want to say one of the starts, the velo might have not down, but might have just been like slightly down. I think 5. I think 5 is going to be the key. So there might be something still in there if you were able to move off, but it's not a cut situation. But at least you now have some clarity that they are not in the full shutdown mode. Now, they say that with Crochet, they say that with Skeens. Mid-September could happen, 2 weeks in, and they could just say, boom, championship week, they could be shut down. But just know the process is starting. But I felt like they held it up a little bit by saying that this is the only element they're doing. He's vying for a rookie of the year nod. And I don't think that's just like thrown to the side. Like, he is the current odds-on favorite just by a smidge over Jackson Merrill. So I don't think they want to like completely take that away from him or anything like that. This weekend, we had another gimmicky game. What's your thoughts on gimmicky games, by the way? What was it? The Field of Dreams game. This weekend, we had the Little League game. Are you a gimmick game guy?
I kind of am, yeah. I like when they mix things up. I like the London games. I like the Field of Dreams games. I don't like the first week of the season when they do that whole thing in March when they go to Korea or wherever, and it just kind of complicates everything for fantasy. But in season, I like these little things. I think it adds a little bit of spice to the season. When it gets a little bit, it slags on a little bit in the middle of the summer, you get a nice little event like that just kind of gets the fans more invested in it. So I do like it. I think it's a fun event.
I'm okay. I'm all. What's oh man, everyone's gonna kill me for this. What's the baseball movie that everybody loves with the little kids? I'm forgetting the name.
With the kids.
See, you're not good for this. We need
Joe. You're not talking about The Rookie, are you? With the
No, the one that everybody cares about. The ball with the dog and Sandlot. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you. Donnie doesn't even know baseball, and he knew that. Arico, I need someone else that can instantly pick me up in those instances. You can't be like me. You can't also not know it. I would like them to run a Sandlot MLB game where they all just wear T-shirts and there's a dog. There's a big wooden fence at the end, and there's like a dog that's gonna bite the baseball. That's the type of gimmick I want, or just normal baseball that I can watch without it being blacked out or having to have Apple TV. But you know what? To each his own. In that game, Tariq Skubal had a no decision. Allowed just 1 run, 3 hits over 6 innings. Clay Holmes ended up blowing the save, where Parker Meadows ended up having, I believe, the RBI win in the 10th inning in that Little League Classic. Any other takeaways from that? Marcus Stroman was really good. I don't know if there's anything gimmick. I mean, it's cool. Like, they got to hang out with the kids, and I enjoyed that type of stuff. We did have a reiteration of how good Tariq Skubal is. And I'd also point out this weekend, you had Corbin Burns get obliterated and Tariq Skubal good. That actually might have been the last call for Tariq Skubal to be the league's best pitcher. That maybe isn't Chris Sale, but any takeaways from the Little League Classic?
Well, it was the Clay Holmes and the Clay Holmes takes online. The Yankees fans are ready to burn this guy at the stake. He has a 2.88 ERA this year. Like, they look at the blown saves, and he has been kind of frustrating, but I heard everybody talking about Clay Holmes. He sucks. He's awful. He's terrible. So I went and looked because I don't have any Clay Holmes on my teams this year. So I'm like, what has he actually been up to? 2.88 ERA, 26 saves, 130 whip isn't great. But the takeaway for me was just how much Yankees fans hate their team when things don't go correctly.
Oh, you just learned that? What, are you new here? What are you new here? You're kidding me. Patrick has the best idea ever. Patrick, you win. He said in that My Sandlot game, they should just have one ball. Just one baseball that they play with the entire game. I love it. I absolutely love it. I also like the idea. Let's do an Angels in the outfield one. Let's see if we can figure out how they're going to play that one. Like, maybe they get Hollywood involved and they just have guys on wire. I'm all for these are the games that I want, but I love Patrick's idea. Sandlot baseball. It's at a crappy backfield. They get one baseball to play with. I'm in. I'm totally in. Let's do that. Let's let these gimmick games be way, way better than they are. Way, way better than they were early on in the year. Blake Snell is insane. Blake Snell this weekend, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. Mr. Joe Rico, here are some stats for you. Over his last 7 starts, Blake Snell has gone at least 6 innings over his last 7 starts. He has struck out 10 or more 4 times in those 7 starts. And over those 7 starts, he has given up a total of 6 earned runs. Blake Snell is pitching like a top 5 SP in baseball. So the question is, next year, is Blake Snell a top 10 starting pitcher now that we've seen all the early chaos get out, or will that early part of the season hold on to? Because I'm saying top 5. There hasn't been many, if any, that has been better over that 7-game stretch than Blake Snell.
So rest of the season, like my next update for rankings, which will come out in like a week or so, Blake Snell is going to be a top 5 or 7 starting pitcher because what he does down the stretch, second half every year is just stupid. But when I go to make rankings at the beginning of next year, we also have to factor in what he does in the first half every season and how he's literally like unplayable for a lot of those first early months. So I think he'll probably be like a top 25 starting pitcher for me. I think this year coming into the season, I had him like 23, but dude, you got to go through so much crap through the first half of the season. This year, last year, it does even out to being pretty good, but there is a lot of risk associated with Snell. There's a lot of injury risk. There's a lot of walk risk. The command is iffy at best a lot of the time. He does put it together for stretches during the year, but you also have to factor in that half of the season where he's awful.
I don't know, man. Top 25 is wild to me. Like, he didn't have a spring training at all. The injury stuff you have to consider into it. I don't know. I think the not properly training, into February, into March with spring training had an extra effect on the injuries. I think he kind of knows it. There's still, the contractual stuff is something to think about. Yeah, he starts off a little bit slow and he picks it up, but I don't know if you can look at Blake Snell as not a top 15 guy at this point, because there were so many things that were stacking on before. It was like, oh, he doesn't go 6 and he's only got these pitches. And yes, he does walk. And now we see there's like a calculated chaos to his walks. And now he's gone 6 in 7 straight games. He's striking out like crazy. He's found his rhythm. He's found his rhythm as a pitcher overall, won a freaking Cy Young. And the thing we're holding against is the guy didn't do any of the training in the first 2 months. And guess what? First 2 months is kind of his spring training. So I don't know. Give me a discount on Blake Snell next year. I'm going to be all in. One of the best pitchers in baseball. And he is going to carry some people into this playoff run because he was got at a cheap-ish cost last year. And there might be a lot of people that just absolutely could have been dumped in some spots. I don't know. Top 25 is wild to me. If you wanted to say like 15 to 20, maybe. I mean, we're not going to go through the list of all the pitchers, but like, is there 20 pitchers that you trust consistently more than Blake Snell right now? I get the first half thing, but you think you could rattle it off?
Well, we also have to factor in we're getting some pitchers back into the pool next year. McClanahan, I think, is going to be back. I'm not sure if he'll be right from the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
DeGrom will be healthy. Strider will be healthy. Alcantara. I don't know. I think he's the type of guy that I'd rather not really pay for on draft day, and then I'll just trade for him when he is struggling earlier in the season. I think that's more the play with Snell, because this year, I guess, is a little bit different with the whole signing thing, but pretty consistently he does struggle out of the gate, and then he figures himself out. I almost swore there really quickly. Almost. He does figure himself out pretty quickly, but you do have to eat a lot of bad outings. I don't have a problem if people want to put him like top 15, top 20. I might end up having him there myself, but I just worry about that first half. And then, Ohtani's also going to be back next year. I think he'll be in the 20 to 25 range for me. We'll have to see when I actually sit down and put everything together. Maybe before I'm on next time, I'll do a brief 2025 rankings and we'll talk about it.
All right, Joe almost got pulled. That was almost Joe's last start. I've done that multiple times where I'm like, oh, remember where I am. A couple other notes here. Adolis Garcia, that's been one that, I turned heavy on, but he has been good as of recent. 2-run homer, doubled, scored the winning run in the 10th as the Rangers beat the Twins this weekend. And believe in August, he's hitting over 300. I don't know what to make of him. It doesn't really matter right now if he's out there. You've gotten to roll with him. Hand up. I was wrong I was done. But you know why I was done? 3 straight months of hitting under 200. And then all of a sudden it just clicked in this last month. So he's going to do the most annoying thing ever. He's going to be really good the last 2 months. And then we're going to look at an entire season of trash before that. Maybe he's a Blake Snell of hitters. I don't know. There's that out there. I do want to get your take on this, though. Bowden Francis held the Cubs to 3 hits over 7 innings and a 1-0 victory. And he is looking more than streamy. So talk to me about Mr. Bowden Francis.
As a Blue Jays guy, I thought that he was very mediocre for most of the season. What we had saw was, a hybrid reliever starter role where he'd go 3 or 4 innings. He was okay, but the last 3 outings, 5 innings, 7 innings, 7 innings, 2 runs, 1 run, 0 runs. But the big thing is the strikeouts, 7, 8, and 7, when I think leading up to that, his high for the year was like 5. So he has really found a groove in terms of strikeouts. He's been really reliable, and I didn't think we'd get there at all with him. I'd also want to mention that the opponent these last couple of starts, the Angels and the Cubs, so it's not like crazy difficulty, but the one before that, which was also solid, was the Orioles. So I think at this point, if you're seeing him out there, he's worth picking up and starting in those right matchups. I don't know if I'm just saying like must roster player, pick him up everywhere, but in the right matchup, I think he can provide some decent value down the stretch.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a dominant whiff pitch, under 23% on his really any pitch he uses over 10% of the time. Gives up a really bad barrel rate. 10% barrel rate for a pitcher is massively worrisome. And I think he's just getting away with some stuff right now. Does have a little bit of a lower expected ERA, but good streamy pitcher right now. Streamy is what you got to be looking at, Pistol. Oh, man. I got to be Blake Snell. I'm hydrated, baby. I'm hydrated. I got something for you guys. It's what I was going to do on Mondays, I think, the rest of the way through. So this is what I teased at the beginning. Let's do some playoff prep. We're going to go through just a couple of closers, some starting pitchers on Tuesday. I didn't find any that I loved today for streaming, and some hitting pickups if you guys want to get the week right, whether, again, you are actually in your playoffs and you're prepping, or you're just about there. On the closer front, 4 closers with an under 25% combined Yahoo ESPN usage. Hand up, you know what that means to other leagues, and they may have been picked up, but here are 4 closers who have been doing some business that are widely available. Michael Kopech, who has been getting saves for the Dodgers over the last 2 weeks. He's got 2 saves. Victor Vodnik, who sounds like a variant of Dr. Doom, 4 saves over the last 2 weeks. That's incredible for a Rockies team. Sir Anthony Dominguez, he's got 3. Lucas Urseg has 2 for Kansas City. All of these guys wildly underowned, a way that you can get in on saves. Joe Rico, please order said closers for me in order of pickup.
I think it's Kopech at the top right now, as insane as that feels. He's just found another level as a Dodger. That team is able to do some weird things with pitchers sometimes. Does sometimes lead to injuries as well, but usually they're able to revitalize these careers of these guys like Kopech. I worry about the command. Like, the command is always a thing with him, but the way their back end of that pen has struggled, I think Kopech is going to be in line for some good opportunities down the stretch. I think he's at the top for me. Probably Urseg. I don't know if there's a lot of clarity outside of him in Kansas City with the way Hunter Harvey got hurt and MacArthur's been pretty bad. I think he's 2. Probably Sir Anthony Dominguez at 3 with Kimbrel's struggles. And then Victor Vodnik, who I don't think is all that reliable being in Colorado, but he's actually been a lot better than I expected this year. And I want to give a shout out to our friend Jesse Severe, who was the first person I ever heard mention Victor Vodnik earlier this year. He was like, you got to keep an eye out for this guy. And I was like, really? I don't know. Colorado, he's down the depth chart, but Jesse saw something there. So shout out to our mutual friend. But I think he's at the bottom of the list here.
I think Kopech and Sir Anthony Dominguez are their own tier. I'd go Urseg is like 1B, and then Vodnik is down there. Opportunities for the Rockies, few and far between. I do think Urseg has that gig, so that one can be exciting. My only problem, I would have Sir Anthony Dominguez number 1, but it's like I feel that they're going to probably do the same thing the Diamondbacks would do with like a Sewald. Like, it's only a matter of time, but I'm very comfortable with those. And by the way, I will go out on a limb and tell you, I think the next save opportunity for the Diamondbacks is going to go to Paul Sewald. Justin Martinez, once again, now he was twice put into situations that were not closer spots. They were tied games and blew 2 games this past week, but Ryan Thompson out. Justin Martinez has been shaky, and I wouldn't be surprised they have not given up on Paul Sewald. So if he is sitting out there, maybe take a look at him. 2 streaming pitchers for Tuesday to take a look at. Maybe last week, the 2-start thing, there weren't really a lot of great 2 starts. I didn't see a lot that I love today. Here are 2 that you might want to get in on, and you tell me what you think about it. Number 1, DJ Hers going up against Colorado. Why I love that, we've seen DJ Hurst put up double-digit strikeout performances, and the Rockies are the worst. They're the worst. They swing at everything, starting with Tovar. And Cody Bradford for the Rangers going up against Pittsburgh. 4-0 record so far this year. Those two with some low ownership across the board here. Either one of those you like for an early week streamer, and knowing your playoff might be on the line.
Yeah, I think I like both of them a lot. DJ Hurts, I've been a big fan of his. When he got sent down earlier in the year, I was kind of surprised. He had struggled, but below the surface, the numbers are really good. So 4.25 ERA, but he has a 3.46 expected ERA. His xFIP is 3.74. His Sierra is 3.54. He's been unlucky in terms of the results. He also has a 20% strikeout minus walk rate. You don't see that very often. That's a pretty elite number. I know we're talking about 12 starts, but that is an excellent number. 28% strikeout rate, solid command. I think Hurts is a really excellent streamer, and maybe even like a touch above streaming territory. I might just be a little bit biased towards him because I really like him, but I'd be rostering him in 12-team leagues unless there's a really tricky matchup. And Cody Bradford, he started the year off looking so well. He got hurt. I don't trust him quite as much. I don't think there's as much strikeout upside, but the command is really good. I think they're both really great options. I'd probably prioritize Hurts, especially if you're looking for strikeouts, though.
Samesies. That's where I would go with that. And then finally on some hitters, if you're looking for a little bit of a boost over the last 2 weeks, Andrew Benintendi keeps hitting 306, has 5 homers in that time. David Hamilton is back up, 333, 2 homers, 5 stolen bases. And Parker Meadows is hitting 342, best average of them all, homer and another 5 stolen bases. So some stolen base guys in there, some homers, really, really low ownership. There's other guys. Jock Peterson might be a player that you can take a look at, but those are a few of the hottest hitters over the last 2 weeks that have got really low ownership. Is there one you would prioritize over the other?
I think Parker Meadows, I really was a big fan of his coming into the season. He's looked really good since he's come back. I would say Hamilton, if his playing time wasn't so erratic and you wouldn't see him at the bottom of the order. Earlier in the year, he looked like the pickup of the season. He was batting at the top of the order. He has 30 stolen bases. I thought this was going to be a huge year for him. If you're really desperate for speed, he might be the way I would go. But if you're just looking for a well-rounded asset off the wire, you're just looking for some offensive help all around, I think that Parker Meadows would be the way I would go.
So murky-looky, just a couple little pieces here. According to the Miami Herald, Marlins are promoting Connor Norby from AAA here on Monday. He's going to get his opportunity. I think he's probably a half-decent pickup compared to, I think they actually have the Diamondbacks out the chute here. But compared to like those hitters that we just talked about, I would put him probably, I don't know if I'm that interested in Benintendi, even though he's been hot. I might take a shot on Norby, but like he's in the same territory as those guys. If they're all available, Norby will probably get to be pushed up a little bit in the lineup. He can hit a little bit. He wasn't dominating in AAA since he's been over with the Marlins, but opportunity is good. So I would take a look at him. And then also just wanted to mention this. We don't do a ton of this in the back half of the year. Obviously we haven't been doing like the prospect looks and stuff, but the Red Sox promoted second baseman Christian Campbell to AAA. And just why it's important is the Red Sox, if you guys don't want to pay attention to anything, have what essentially we're calling the big four in AAA right now. 4 absolutely dominant prospects are all there. And Christian Campbell, to me, might be the most exciting. Roman Anthony is there, who I have my prospect ADPs that I do, which is creating a prospect ADP, obviously, the P1 ADP drafts. Roman Anthony was a top 10 prospect in those overall. You've got Kyle Teal, Marcelo Mayer, and now Christian Campbell. Christian Campbell has had one of the most ridiculous seasons so far. 339, 16 homers, 20 steals between high A and double A. He's now up there. These are all great dynasty options. They're not options to come up this year, but the beginning of next year, I would be looking at all of those guys. And I would rank it. I think I currently have it. Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Mayer, and Teal they're like all together. And some people are talking about Roman Anthony being the number 1 overall, but probably the best team. Remember the Orioles at the beginning of the year where it's like you got, the Jackson Holiday and you've got Kerstad and you've got Mayo. That's what this is with the Red Sox. This is that version of it. And if they don't break camp, this Red Sox team will be that next season, the beginning of next season. 3 up and 3 down. On the up, Mr. Corbin Carroll, 2 for 5, 3 runs, 1 homer, and 2 RBI. I didn't lead off the show or anything with it, Joe, but Corbin Carroll's power output has absolutely been immense. Batting average really hasn't gotten there, but he's been dude-like again.
Just in time to get that price all back and expensive again for 2025. Man, I think we mentioned it. I think it was you and I were talking. Will he maybe get back into the first round?
No way.
You don't think so? If he stays hot like this?
Nope.
Where do you think? The second round?
Yeah, I think it's late second, early third, somewhere in there. Somewhere in that territory of it. I mean, the power output's really good. Everything else has still been kind of black. Guys like 50 RBI so far in the year.
Yeah.
CJ Abrams, a first-round pick, 2 for 4, had 3 stolen bases this weekend. And Framber Valdez, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. On the down, people were bringing up in the chat, Merrill Kelly got lit up. Them things were lit. 5 innings, 6 earned runs, 8 hits. Diamondbacks just looked absolutely atrocious in there. He was throwing everything down the middle. Nope. Tyler O'Neill, 0 for 4 with 4 Ks. Sombrero time. And Jorge Alcala only made it through 2/3 of an inning, gave up 5 earned runs and 2 homers. Absolute garbage. On the injury front, another Diamondback piece gets to start off each segment. Ketel Marte was removed from Sunday's game against the Rays after re-aggravating his ankle injury. And the worst part about this is I think this is going to be a stent. They're going to have an MRI, but this exact same thing happened. They held off for a couple days, brought him back in. He re-aggravated. I don't see how we avoid an IL stint. He's been the number 1 second baseman in fantasy. The re-aggravation tells me everything we need to know. Diamondbacks need to keep winning games. So I guess there's a possibility they could just like let him sit for 8 days or whatever it is. But I think they're going to be extra cautious, assuming that the MRI comes back clean. But we haven't even seen that yet, Joe. Any major, massive concerns for Marte?
They might as well, if they're thinking he's going to be out for a week or 8 days, they might as well put him on the IL and get some replacements up there. In terms of fantasy, what is it going to mean when he comes back? I don't know. It's obviously at this time of year, there's so little certainty about anything. If he misses an extra week than you're expecting, then there's a chance that he becomes a drop. If we hear he's going to be out for like 3 weeks or so, what would be that line for you with Marte? If we hear he's out for a month from today, he's expected back like last week of September or 2 weeks. I don't know if they've even been specific about that, but is there a line where you'd be willing to drop him right now?
Well, they're not specific because they don't know. They have to do the MRI. They don't know anything yet. Like, I mean, for me, I don't know. I probably don't drop him in any scenario unless they say he's out for the year, because I would IL him. He prioritizes anybody else you have on the IL. There's nobody who else on the IL that is currently hurt. Tatis, like Tatis might be a drop. What the hell's going on with him? I thought it sounded like they made it sound like Fernando was going to come back after the trade deadline. Like we were close to coming back after like the All-Star game right around, and he is still not going.
Tucker
other than that, who else? Like probably not. So, do you have
Tucker.
one?
Well, maybe Tucker, but that's another situation where who the hell knows what's going on?
Who even knows where he is? He's missing. It's a milk carton. I don't know. I would put him on the IL in any scenario, but I think I don't think it's even so much about like what the value is at this point. It's just like if they put him on the IL, you're going to have to go and make a move. Hopefully not, because that's going to be pretty devastating. But it looks like that's going to be the destination that we're going. On the Braves front, Brian Snitker told reporters that Austin Riley is going to undergo further evaluation after initial x-rays were inconclusive. Don't love that. Don't love where it's inconclusive and it doesn't tell you a story. I like negative. Snitker also said and confirmed that Reynaldo Lopez will return from the injured list to start Tuesday against the Phillies. So he will be out there. The Austin Riley stuff, though, scary. So, I mean, mid-August, we might be without Marte. We might be without Riley. We also might be without Ha-Seong Kim, as Mike Schilt told reporters on Sunday that he's going to undergo an MRI exam on his injured right shoulder today. So we have got like massive medical report to wait on between Ketel Marte, Austin Riley, and Ha-Seong Kim right now. Absolutely brutal. Also, a couple others on the Rays front. Yandy Diaz, he did have x-rays on his injured forearm, which came back negative for any fractures, which is good news. And then this one had been brought up a little bit earlier. Ben Cherington told reporters Sunday that Jared Jones is going to make at least one more rehab start before joining the Pirates rotation. So the question is, are you full go when Jared Jones is off? Are you going to start him right out the chute?
I think probably. Do we have a rough idea of the opponents? Because that would probably be the deciding factor for me. So they have coming up Rangers, Reds, and Cubs are the next 3 series. I think I'm starting him.
It's the Reds then. Well, because if he's doing one more start and then he's going to come after that, it's either who was the last series you said?
So Thursday through Sunday, they're playing the Reds, and then they start next week against the Cubs.
It might be the Cubs then. It might be like the beginning of the series with the Cubs. I'd be comfortable with that.
I think I'd start him either way. Yeah, you're away from Great American Ballpark there, so there's no real worry for me for either of those teams.
I would be comfortable with that. All right, friends, you know what time it is. Let's get to some betting. It's time for Monday's Best Bets
of the Day.
There you go. Such a stupid segment that we do that. Best Bets of the Day. We need to have like a video thing next year or something like that. All right. Our best bets brought to you by Bet365 over on the Betting Pros. 3 of our favorite bets, which, by the way, you guys can go and download the Betting Pros app if you would like. You can download and follow some of your favorite betting analysts. You can track your own bets. Hell, I've even said it before. Something you can do. You don't even have to sync up books. If you are getting new into the betting world, even this late in the season, you can practice. You can put in what bets you would want to do, and you can track your own stuff. So it's a good way before you even dip your toe into the market, is you can just individually track your own bets. But Joe, what do you got for your 3 favorite bets of the day?
I've been going with a lot of plus money stuff recently. So today we're going with some more favorites, starting with Zebby Matthews. Under 1.5 walks, it is juiced to minus 180. So it's probably best to pair this with something else. But it really does feel free considering the command this guy has. He walks 7 batters over, I believe, 96 or 97 innings in the minors. He just doesn't know how to walk people. His first start of the year in the majors is his debut. 5 innings with no walks as well. So I think it'd be almost impossible to envision him walking 2 batters tonight. So if you want to make that one a bit of a better line, you can pair it with something. Maybe you go Twins money line if you're feeling a little adventurous there. But this one is a pretty safe bet, I think. We're going back to the well. Filling in for Bubba today, we had a little bit of switch around, and I'm very grateful because that means I get to bet Taj Bradley again. Taj Bradley, over 6.5 strikeouts, minus 105. He is facing Oakland, and Oakland, even though they're maybe a little bit better offensively than we thought, they still strike out quite a bit. One of the 5 or 6 worst strikeout rates in all of baseball. I'm on the record with Taj Bradley. He strikes out close to 30% of batters, one of the better strikeout pitchers in baseball, and he's struggled a little bit over these last couple starts. I think he'll bounce back today against Oakland, getting us to that 7 number we need to hit the over. And then the final one, it's a total. Baltimore and the Mets, total of 8.5. I'm taking the over on this one, and it comes down to the starting pitching matchup. Trevor Rogers and David Peterson. Just don't have a lot of confidence in either one of them. Peterson on the surface, 3.04 ERA, looks really good, but he's not striking guys out. The command is always an issue there. And Trevor Rogers, I just don't think is very good at all. So I think this one will soar over that 8.5 number. It's at minus 125. And those are all, of course, at Bet365.
All right, my best bets. I'm going to join you in something here. I'm going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks run line, minus 1.5. Boy, they shot themselves in the foot with that Tampa Bay series, just losing stupid. I mean, they had to come back every time and just couldn't hold it. I think they are going to bounce back even without Ketel Marte. They're going to get back into action, and they are going to put up some runs today. So minus 1.5, right around minus 118. You might get it minus 115. Arizona run line. I'm also going to go with Kansas City on the run line, minus 1.5, almost exact same odds. We got Seth Lugo on the mound. Both of these are really good matchups. And guess what? Going to join you. Taj Bradley at almost even money, 6.5 strikeouts. Yes, sir. Because it is Oakland. If this was like a San Diego, a Toronto, one of those teams that just don't put up big strikeout numbers, I'd say no. If you gave me a middling team, I'd be very interested. If you give me one of the higher strikeout teams, I'm very interested in, and that is exactly what you're getting. So Taj Bradley, 6.5 strikeouts on the over, and I may even get cheeky and find one other guy I like to pair him to come down one notch, as I like to do. But that's what I'll go with. Arizona run line, Kansas City run line, Taj Bradley strikeouts, and we got Joe with the Zebby Matthews under walks, Taj Bradley over strikeouts, and the Baltimore Mets total over. There you go, friends, for today's best bets of the day. Oh. That's right. You're trying to do it with me. Joe, all right, what do you got on the home run marker? Oh, we should probably go and take a look at the board here. Of course, I'm not back on this board. I have no idea where I'm at. I don't even know if I got any homers this weekend. But Joey P and Wonky, they are fighting it out. Battle of the Pros with 36 homers, tied for 14th and 15th place. Over on the top of the leaderboard, South African G is starting to run away. 46 has a 2 home run lead over B-Trot. So right now, South African G can see that wonderful Vladimir Guerrero Jr. bat just coming straight home to him or her. B-Trot 44. Larry C has got 42. L-Skell at 42. And 2 others with 40. So we got 6 people in the 40 range. I am in the 30-something range, so not quite there. Someday, some way, maybe I'll get on the board before the end of the year. Joe, what do you think? Who are you going with on your home run call today?
Can you imagine how insufferable Joe's going to be if he comes back and somehow ends up winning the thing?
It's not going to happen, but yes, it would. Anything will be insufferable with Joe.
So I'm taking Pete Alonso. I'm also leaning into that Trevor Rogers again. Alonso has been a lot better as of late. I think the general feeling about his season is that he has been pretty disappointing for where you drafted him, but he's up to 27 homers. He's hit 4 of them in the last 2 weeks, and against Trevor Rogers, I think that's a really nice matchup for him to take one out. So I'm going with Pete Alonso tonight. A little chalky.
Well, I'm going to go with the Batman himself. Give me Vladimir Guerrero Jr. playing my home run per 9 against. So give me Vladdy Jr. to get me on that board and get me some homers. Friendos, that's it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Hey, I want to give you a reminder. As I mentioned before, we got a lot going on here on Fantasy Pros. In about 2 hours, if you're watching this live, if you're listening on the podcast, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern on the main Fantasy Pros channel, just Fantasy Pros, youtube.com/FantasyPros. We're going to be live for 5 straight hours if you're into the fantasy football talk. Joe's running the first couple hours. We got Ryan Wormley, host of The Cycle, is going to be doing the next few, and I will be on the last hour. Got Andrew Erickson with me, Scott Pianowski, Mike Florio. So you can check that out if you want 5 straight hours. If you miss any, you can watch after. But just in case you guys wanted to have some fun, we will be there live for 5 hours later today. We will be back, though, on Wednesday. KC Bubba will be back in the house. We'll keep all your prep going for the fantasy baseball season. As someone mentioned before, people do turn to fantasy football, but now it's the time to grind. And we're still grinding. You can find Joe Rico at JoeRico99 on Twitter. Find me at IsItTheWelsh. Friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And until next time, we'll talk to you. Leading off, we're out of here. Peace.